Hey guys. Well, let's wait for Jim and Denny. I think they were also planning to come, right?
Yes, I think they're trying to join.
Yeah. Well, you guys carry on a conversation of your own until then, okay? So feel free to do that. And then when Denny and Jim come, I'll jump in and see if there's anything that might be worth your. Oh, well, there's Jim and Denny. Oh, this Zoom has is a different configuration for this meeting. I have to apparently, yeah. So the security is the waiting room, and I have to admit people explicitly. So, all right, Denny is probably on his way because he said he was going to make it. Right. But okay, you guys can just talk. I can turn the laptop around, okay? So and just let me know as soon as Denny's here. Well, can you guys tell if Denny's here? Do you know who's in the waiting room? If I'm not looking at the screen, can I tell?
No, but I think if you give one of us co-hosts, then we can check.
Oh, I can just make one of you. All right, how about I make Shreya's co-host here?
I just seen him post on the Reddit. I think he's gonna be joining in a bit.
Yeah, okay. But in any case, I got to make one of you co-hosts anyway, because at some point I'll have to check out of this meeting, and I don't want the meeting to just end that the host is left or something like that. You never know how these programs work. Where the hell do I make you co-host?
If you I think go to the options on my user, then it would say make co-host. In participants.
Oh yeah, under participants. No, it just says invite and copy invite link, and it doesn't even show me. You know what I think? Well, it tells me I'm the host, but it's not showing me all the participants. Oh, I see. There's a participant list opened up here, not under the arrow. Okay, all right. So what do I do now? I just click on you. More. Okay, there's more for you. All right, there you go. Well, it was actually quite a challenge to discover this. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'm a co-host now.
Yeah, cool. All right, just in case, after I log out, one of you will still have control. Oh. All right. Anyway, I'm glad to see you guys, all of you, and you're all questioning right now, which is fantastic. Okay, and I think just like I said in the announcements, if you're questioning continuously every day, trying to get a trophy or two every day, you can keep going until the very last day that Foothill will allow me to finalize the grades. Okay, which I think is one day after the final exam. I don't know. But don't take any chances because you don't want to push your luck. But I think it's one day after the final. But that means you got to keep making some progress every day. I think that's what I told my 2A students too. So it's the same deal for them. So you should just keep feel free to. But I think that many of you are very close. I think well, all of you regulars are either done or very close. So, and I'm very happy for that because even screw the grades and whatever you get out of it. What you get out of this and the grades and everything, that's all just a calculation, and it doesn't matter. Okay, what actually matters is that you got through to the end, and actually that does say something. Even if it does, even if it's after the end of the exams and after you don't, by the end of the holidays even, you got through the whole thing, and I am very, very confident that each one of you went through every single one of those, will actually feel a real sense of competence after that. Because what I see out there many times is that previously is many times when people, if you have the bad luck, of being stuck under an incompetent manager who doesn't know what they're doing, they may tell you to do something that's very inefficient and bad. And most of the time, what I see is that the subordinates just blindly follow what the manager says, without thinking whether it's the most efficient way to do something. And they don't suggest an alternate, saying, well, or even challenge the person and saying that's not the best way to do it. Why the hell are you giving me this lame ass way to do this thing, right? And that's because they don't know a better way. If you knew a better way, you'll tell them, right? If you don't know a better way and you say, that's not the way to do it, and they're going to say, well, how are you going to do it? If this is not the way, how are you going to do it? They say, well, I don't know. Okay, I'll do it that way. Okay, so that's essentially that's how most things are done. But if you do actually know how things are done, you can just basically don't have to feel intimidated by anyone after that. You can basically just put your foot down and say, this is how you do it, right? And if you want me to do it some other way, there's got to be some solid reason, And I think that I think what I mean is that I think it will take away one of the things I've seen in youngsters today is the need to validate themselves to other people. Okay, I've seen this in lots and lots of brilliant kids, doing A+ everywhere they go and everything, but they still have even my own kids, right? So and all their classmates, and many people, but many of them are brilliant, but they're wasting a lot of their mental cycles and energy just trying to please other people, trying to impress other people, saying, if I do this, will that person think highly of me? If I do this, and then a lot of their actions are guided by that, rather than by, is this really cool? Is this really interesting? Is this really juicy? And I think because of that, they're not able to fire on full cylinders in what they're doing. Even then, they're doing a lot of stuff, but it's basically just exhausting themselves, burning their candle at both ends and things like that. So, so I think that, and also I think that once you're really, really solid on something, regardless of what it is, right? Any field, if you're really, really solid on something, which I think that, getting through all of these quests will actually equip you with, at least in the algorithms area. I think you will feel less of a need to validate yourself to other people, because other people will have to start validating themselves to you, saying, hey, Shreya's right and they know what the hell is going on, let's go and ask them. All right, okay. Say, and that kind of thing is really cool. And so I'm pretty sure that you're all very close, and I'm very happy to see your progress. And and I think you'll feel. And also the other thing is, the other thing I wanted to say to you guys before you take over the rest of the meeting is that so it's not just achieving all these trophies or goals, or saying that I completed this. One of the things that is I think will find extremely valuable is the portfolio you're leaving behind in terms of these videos and the questions and your posts and your curiousness out there, saying, I want to learn. I want to try and do this, and I want to learn. Now, so here's why I say that, is because later on, many years ago, maybe you have grandkids and grandkids and your descendants. Okay, in all likelihood, what will they know about you if you care about those things, right? They can have deep fakes generated with a couple of photos of old granddaddy, right? And that could be, that my granddaddy did that. So you can say, a granddaddy could go and have plant their flags in 5 different planets out there, right? And take photos and say, that's me. And but that's not what grandkids are looking for, because I was thinking some time ago about, what would I have liked to see about my own granddad? Because, I have lots of good memories of my granddad, but I never ever, I realized after, realized very late, I never ever really pictured my granddad as a young kid like me. Well, not me now, right? Because I remember myself as a young kid, but I can never picture my granddad going through the growing pains, chasing girls and all these things that I've done. My granddad has done too. He's felt the exact same feelings, but I could never ever picture him like that. So I always think of him as an old guy, right? Sitting in a corner or having his fun and not messing with anyone. So and I thought that what would have been really nice, because I'm pretty sure cameras and photography and all were there when well, maybe they weren't there when my granddad was a kid, but he could have left some peeks into his personality, which I think is far more valuable to descendants than photos of you on 5 different planets, right? Saying, well, my granddad did all these great things, but well, people do great things, or having parties and wasted and photos on and saying, oh, my granddad had a lot of fun. Yeah, of course, everybody has a lot of fun in that, when they're young, right? But the way you relate to someone, whose genes you perhaps share, and you say, so feel a connection, and saying, well, that person felt the same thing I do, right? They were, look at him in that video. They were trying to learn something in exactly the same way I'm learning. And you're all setting a fantastic role model examples for your own descendants many, many, many years down the line, I think. So I think that's really great, because, I've been looking at these things, and it's very unique the way that dynamics of this class is playing out. And I'm very happy, and I hope you'll you guys will keep it going after that, and don't stop. Okay, don't stop after the final, and just keep going until the end. And I'm gonna be around. Oh yeah, and also the other thing is, after the final, if you guys are interested, and there are some really, really valuable skills I can teach you, right? Yeah, all the way, starting from level noob all the way to a pro that is out there doing some serious kick-ass stuff in any of these areas. If you're interested, I can teach you one-on-one or one-on-two or one-on-three boot camp kind of thing. Okay, so we'll meet for once a week, and I'll just walk you through some of these things like I do in 2A, and then I'll say, all right, this is your homework. You get it done before next week, and then we can have some Discord or some channel on. We can have this discussion, but it'll be like 2 or 3. It'll be a 2 or 3 week project, and we'll get some stuff done, something serious and interesting done. So I'm thinking, if you're interested, it's all free. I don't care, because I'm just sitting here. I'm not going to be doing anything. I'm just sitting here, have fun where I am. Okay, I'm not going anywhere. So if you're interested, yeah, I'll just be happier. I'm just and I can do this class 1 hour every week, maybe, or more if needed. I can teach you the basics, and all you need to know, basically not even basics, all you need to know about AWS Cloud, for example, right? Now, so what I mean is that AWS Cloud has a zillion services out there. Obviously nobody knows all the zillion services, yes? But still, someone can say I'm an AWS expert without knowing all of those services, because they know what you can expect to get from these services, right? But if you want to say, I know how a hash table works, but I want to have a persistent hash table, right? A hash table that is also sent to disk. And then you say, all right, what is Google's version of a persistent hash table? Then you'll know immediately. Microsoft's version, right? Amazon, I think they call it DynamoDB or something like that, right? So but what you need, and you basically pull things into your AWS cloud architecture in exactly the same way, or as you pull things into your C++ architecture. It's all the same, right? And so I can absolutely teach you the cloud, and basically walk you all the way through to setting up your own server and a web server, basically a simple web application with sounds and everything. So that'll probably take a couple of weeks, maybe. And I can walk you through that. Or I can set you up with a simple, machine learning 101 course, really, really solid. Maybe it get you to implement a very simple neural network, or just language modeling, right? You do language modeling. I think this is a project that I suggested to my 2A students, but you guys should. No, the 2C students did it, and I mentioned it to my 2A students. So yeah, that is by sampling a lot of text on Gutenberg.org. You develop a language model, not neural net based and all. Okay, it's a statistical language model using which you can classify random text thrown at you as saying, well, 90% this was written in a Shakespearean style. So Matthew, one of your senior students in 2C, Matthew Waters, he set up this program. So as extra credit, right? And he did it, and he did a demo in the STEM day at Foothill College one day, and he had his computer set up and everything, and people would come in and type in a passage, either from memory or their own style, and the system will tell them, right? Well, that sounds like it was written by Shakespeare. That sounds like it was Mark Twain, and so on. And people had a lot of fun with that, right? And very often it was correct, and it was very nice, right? And it's a very simple machine learning system. It just uses naive Bayes, and it doesn't even require sophisticated machine learning. Not even gradient descent and all, least square error. We can do that. What else? Yeah, a bunch of if you want to do game development in Unreal, see, because essentially if you've done first of all, you've got to complete all the way to C. It's 9. Do a quest 9. If you finish quest 9 of Red Quest 9, I'm happy to give you this boot camp for the rest of this holidays until Jan 9th, I think. So yeah, Unreal game development. I haven't touched Unreal in several years now. So I don't know, but I don't think it'll change all that much. So it won't take me a great deal of time to get back in sync. So if you're interested in doing an Unreal game, that would also be fun for me. And with Oculus and all, the bulky Oculus that you can do a 3D VR game. So that's all of those are possibilities. Okay, so a whole bunch of things you can do. That's what I said. The world is your oyster. Okay, you got so many things to do. Once you've mastered C++, you basically can do anything you want. Yeah. But strangely enough, this is really cool, right? Because even though the funny thing is, you don't need C++ for any of the, for example, take the questing system. There's no C++ in the questing system, right? Because the only C++ in the questing system is in the compiler. There's no C++ in the questing system. The questing system is what you will put together. If you do this WebEx bootcamp with me, no web app bootcamp, that's what something like that you'll put together, right? And it's not going to be made with C++. It's just going to be made with Amazon components. And but still, knowing C++, you will know the costs, right? Then it doesn't matter. That is my biggest gripe with programmers. Not now, maybe once upon a time, programmers who are who adamantly refuse to know about C++ or lower level things and say that they're experts only in Python or Java and things like that. The odds are higher that they would use data structures unwisely. Like in Python, in many cases I've seen people just use dictionaries willy-nilly, and comprehension when they're not supposed to do it, and things will get done, but it just gets done slowly. Right. So yeah, in fact, that's very similar to, but some of these things you'll discover by yourself, and you'll find out. Like Shreyas, the point that he made in the thing, right? If you keep inserting at with push front in a vector, every insert is actually O of n, because the vector will keep getting bigger and bigger. More elements have to get shifted. So it's 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus so on. It's sigma n is n squared plus n over 2. Yeah. So push back, on the other hand, is just going to grow the tail of the vector. So it's not going to, each operation is actually of 1. So I think that's why, perhaps, I don't know, it's a hypothesis that one of your graph algorithms is slower because your path is being, updated in n squared time. I don't know. These are things that you could check. But you're very close, I think. I looked at your recent code, so I think your code, and Denny's also there to help, I think, because he just completed all of it, and Justin too. And most of you are getting there. If not already there, you're having good momentum. I see you have good momentum. So I think you won't stop, and you'll eventually get there. Okay, and you have all the time. As long as you keep moving forward, you can keep on moving, right, until final. And reviewing final material, you can do it next week. No, starting tomorrow. While you're doing quest number 9, because it's all related. The theory that you're going to learn is what you're going to be implementing. So it'll be kind of helping each other in a sense. So I think it's cool. So you could be questioning at the same time as checking, reviewing stuff for your final. Yeah. So, I had a blast teaching you guys. I had a great time. Thank you all for enrolling in this class. And yeah, so yeah, I hope to cross paths with you at some point in the future. And feel free to connect with me if you want. And I'm happy to stay abreast of your progress and the great things you'll be doing in life. So it's fantastic. All right, so best of luck for your exams. If you don't have any questions for me, I could just leave the meeting. Hopefully now the recording or stuff is not going to stop because Shreyas is the co-host. So you'll stay until the last person leaves, yes?
Yes.
All right. Great. Well, anyway, thank you all.
I had a quick question.
Every day, many times, I actually look forward to, when I go, when I'm just sitting in the orchard, I get into my phone and say, well, let's see if there's anything interesting going on in the Reddit subreddit, right? Because, I look forward to seeing some of your posts. And so thanks for that.
I had a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
For quest 9, what defines the complete of quest 9? Because I want to finish everything, but I was just wondering, like, do you have to finish the Maxflow algorithm for everything to be imported into Canvas?
No. Whatever you have at on the day of until you stop questing for an extended period of time, I'll import.
All right, because I think I missed a freeze day or two, but like I thought if you finish quest 9.
Don't worry. No, I don't think any of you need to worry about freeze states, okay? Or grinding or bursting. I don't care, okay?
Okay.
So you can essentially assume that I've turned off all kinds of monitors, and all of you guys are good, and as far as that's concerned. So
okay.
Go for it, right? So you can keep. In fact, if you're interested, if you've completed quest number 9, I can show you how to create your own quest too. That'll probably take a week. Yeah, you don't have to learn the innards of the questing system. It's actually very simple, even if you did want to. But I can show you what you need to create something like that. Yeah, it's very simple.
Cool.
In fact, take a look at the Curiouser and Curiouser. Okay, Curiouser and Curiouser. That's a very, very simple quest. And it's just one mini quest in a quest which contains only one mini quest. And I just put it together for fun, but it'll just take you like a few days to create something like that. So it's very or even a few hours, who knows, right? So it's just one simple interesting problem. I can show you how to do that. Okay, all right, just reach out to me by email.
Professor, is your questing system mostly AWS components?
Yeah. I built it up on AWS.
And then are you also using like AWS CloudWatch or some sort of monitoring for like the burst monitoring and stuff?
Yeah, I am using monitoring, but I've got to look into the. It's not a big cost, but I had a huge amount of data that I need. I thought I'll get into, but I'm not even sure if it's worth it. But yeah, I do use CloudWatch. Yes.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Are you able to stay mostly at the free tier, or are you paying some?
No,
amount?
not anymore. But it's not a huge cost, I mean, people all over the world are questing, and even then, it just cost me like less than $100 a month.
Okay, wow. Do you ever get overloaded if there's like a
I
high
have a
amount of
load
users?
balancer. I have a load balancer, and I've been waiting for the day when it would actually clone. When the load balancer hits the threshold and it'll fire up another. Yeah, but it never happened, because even when one of the servers was just, the logs were just rolling, like lots and lots of people were hitting it at the same time. I thought, okay, now the load balancer is going to kick in and start another server. But even then it didn't happen, and none of the students or nobody complained anyway. So I thought that, okay, well, it seems to be handling that very well. It's very, these things are very thin and efficient these days. I think most of the time, they're very efficient. I think as long as we don't do any huge number crunching jobs in the back end, we can do a lot of stuff. Because if a request comes in and then I'm going to process like 15 enormous graphs at the same time, for example, that's never happened. Because even if lots and lots of people are questioning, the chances that two people are questioning, two, I think, it can happen 2 to 3, and it can have, right? The chances of 5 people doing question number 9 at the same time, and also trying to get to the large graph processing at the same time, extremely slim. I think that's probably the reason why it's not forking. But I can imagine, if you're running so I have a friend in Seattle who's got he's doing a finance, some finance insight company, Adam. And I think he moved his infrastructure to AWS. But for him and all, they can, it's not enough for them to, for those guys, they'll have to go to larger instances. Like AWS for my questioning, I just use mini and micro instances, really, right? Because it doesn't, and that's why it's only $100. But for those guys who do the finance data analysis and all the heavy duty stuff, and log processing also takes a lot of CPU. Unfortunately, even that you can get from Amazon these days, right? You can basically tell Amazon, you can create a job that says, I don't want the actual log files, but process it into me just data, right? So all of that is possible too. And that's what I said. I don't know what the service is, but but you know what you want. And so you can say, what is it in Amazon that will give me that? I'm pretty sure they have something like that. I'm pretty sure Amazon and Microsoft, everybody has something like this, right? So that's what, like speech recognition. One time when we were back in our lab, it was like a lab curiosity. Everybody would come to a lab to, let's look at some speech demo example, speech recognition demos. But now, everybody is, I can talk, and Alexa and everybody, it's like commoditized, right? Everybody has really good speech recognition around that in our phones, and even in our phones. So like that. How do I get started talking about that? Yeah, Amazon. Yeah, they have all these really nice services. But yeah, like if you had to do, some NumPy or machine learning, a Sage job, even Sage, but they all have, the Sage is okay, right? Because the Sage is all is an outside service. They'll just give you an API call, like Poly and Sage. So this is speech synthesis. They won't touch a server. In fact, I can run a full-fledged web server on Amazon, in which I do speech recognition and speech synthesis, and all these even heavy-duty machine learning on a micro instance, on a simple micro instance. And how is that possible? Because all of these things that I use, they're not running on my micro instance. They're just API calls that's going elsewhere. So in fact, if you go to lors.nonlinearmedia.org. That's the one that you go to when you enter one of those wrong passwords, the Legend of Fangs or something like that, right? So there, whatever you type will get turned into a voice, and you can hear it, right? So you can create your own script and have it played back like a movie, and with sound effects and all. And that's all happening in real time. But it's all running on the question server, along with the students questioning in the background, right? And so how is that happening? Because all of the heavy duty processing is being done via API calls on some huge server bank that Amazon has, right? Or Google has. That's what I mean, right? So if you're using one of those services like Oracle or Amazon for doing your number crunching, even then you can get away with just having a micro server, right? Micro machine for your server. Because even actually, I think, well, what is that small box in which you get a Linux machine? Raspberry Pi, right? I'm pretty sure that you can even have a web server running on Raspberry Pi that is capable of giving the illusion of being a heavy-duty service with machine learning and speech recognition, because all it is doing is that a web server that is doing API calls to the AWS backend. Right? And so because of Raspberry Pi, you'd be surprised, because the implementation of the HTTP server on Raspberry Pi, they're thin and lean and efficient. And you're not going to have a lot of shit on your Raspberry Pi either, right? Because it'll be a nice and simple machine. And you will. So I'm pretty sure that, it can even handle a lot of heavy duty. Back in the day, I could have used a Raspberry Pi instead of a machine that I built in my garage to So yeah, AWS is really cool. Now, yeah, it's good knowing at least one thing. Okay, after you finish CS2C, I think it's nice. It will be a really powerful ally, right? With C++ knowledge and knowing, some science, some scripting like PHP or Python, right? That's always good to have. And knowing AWS cloud, that's a killer combination. Okay, and if you know that, you are not beholden to anyone. You can just put things together, right? You pull things together as you like and put things together and see that morph into shape in front of your eyes, and you see is it nice or not, right? And all of that for no cost at all, right? So it's a really powerful system, and you only need to know one, right? So you get into, if have a friend who knows about Azure or Google, get into that, and you only need to know one, because once you get really solid on one, it's basically exactly the same, right? And you can, and you say, well, just the names will be different, like Java and C++. Now, although in C++ you get stuff that you don't get in Java, but as you probably know by now, right? So with great power comes great responsibility. C++ gives you great power, and so. All right, and no further questions for me?
Professor,
Hey, yeah, Justin.
when will the quest scores be imported into the grade and like the foothill thing?
Yeah, don't worry, Justin. You're okay, right? And the other people are questing, right? I know you and Denny are finished, so you don't have to worry about anything as far as the quests go. And the other people are continuously questing, even right in front of my eyes, so they don't have to worry until the final. Okay, the day, and don't risk the date after the final. Okay, so I don't know. They asked me to finalize on the day of the final.
Just to clarify, the max score for the quest is 250, right?
The max is not 250. You know why? It'll be capped at 250.
Or capped, right?
Yeah, you can get a lot more than 250.
Oh, okay.
All right. So in fact, even if you finish the whole thing, it may be fun for you to go back and check to see, where you can get more. All right. Best of luck to you, all of you. Okay, Denny.
Thank you so much.
And junior Denny. See you guys later.
See you. Thank you so much.
Okay,
you, Dan.
Professor. Thank you.
Bye.
Guys, how many trophies do you have? Because I'm getting kind of scared.
I think I'm like under 200.
I think I'm at 207, so the max is 250, so that's quite off.
Have you
Have
done
you guys
a lot
finished
of
all the quests?
No, I'm on quest 9. I had to finish the max flow algorithm.
You got
Maybe it's
past
worth
the
50.
you got past the shortest
Trophies.
weighted.
Yeah, I got past that. Finally, it took me like 5 hours of debugging. And you know what the issue was? I was adding all the edges to my priority queue instead of only if it's shorter, which is really dumb. So I had to move that if statement into the if, like the push statement into the if clause, and then the entire thing worked. So like, wait, is anyone at 250 yet?
I think Denny is, right?
Yeah, I was at exactly 200 before the mouse quest, and then the mouse quest gives exactly 50.
Okay.
Max flow, I think, gives like 20 points. So that's if you're able to get like all of his edge cases and stuff. Excuse me, please.
I think I'll have to go back and do stuff.
What else? 2-string, I think, on butterfly. That gave a good amount of points. I think I like 5 or 6 points from that. And then if you could get the large matrix multiplication to pass for cormorant, I think that was a lot too, like 5 points or something like that. So they kind of all add up if you get some of those like extra cases.
Doing all the two string ones give a lot of points for all the quests. So if you haven't done them, you should probably go do them for the points.
And if you're struggling getting past the large matrix multiplication, once you've I read a post about it, but once you have the general math, it's just like eliminating function calls basically, and that's what my code beats it like every time now, but it wasn't anything crazy. It was just like eliminate every single call. So you should definitely be able to do it if you have like the basic logic of the fast algorithm.
For the Maxwell algorithm, are you guys creating like a residual graph and stuff? Because I'm not doing that. I'm just I remember like on Reddit, there was this bare bones algorithm. Like I tried doing a residual graph and it didn't even compile for me. So like, are you guys doing like a residual graph and like a flow graph and tracking everything, or are you guys just keeping it like a tracker of the total and then doing it?
I use the residual graph. I feel like it's an important part of the algorithm, because it allows you to backtrack just in case, your first couple of computed paths aren't actually giving you maximum flow.
I haven't gotten to this quest yet, but it's like an entirely separate object, graph object.
Yeah. And for the the reverse Dijkstra, where like instead of finding the shortest, you have to find the longest path. What I just did is that on the priority queue, there's like an option where you can say like use the greater comparator instead of the lesser comparator, and then like if you just do that, I think that works, right? Do you guys do something different?
It uses the lesser by default. So if you just initialize a prio queue without any other parameters, then it'll just use the lesser.
Yeah, but I think if you put like greater as one of the parameters, then it does the
Then it does the min min prio
The-
queue. Yeah.
or the max one, right?
Greater would do a min one. Cause it would
Wait.
it would compare whatever is greater to that value, and then it would place it farther back in the priority queue.
Right. Okay, yeah, right.
Guys, I'm actually stuck on quest 7, so I don't know if anyone wants to talk about that right now, but I would definitely welcome some help.
Yeah, for sure. Which method are you stuck on?
Yeah, I'm working on the partition method, and I am not smart enough to understand the spec. And so I don't want to get too gritty. Like, doesn't want us to do that, but I don't really understand the general spec algorithm. Just
So
sort of conceptualize it.
so basically, I think what it's saying is that you had to have a pivot that by default starts at the midpoint of low and high. And
Right. Am I
then
seeing that part?
you basically, the thing is that you want it to be sorted, right? On both the left side and the right side. So coming from both sides. So like you're coming from the beginning toward the end, then everything has to be greater than the previous element. If you're going from the end toward the beginning, then everything has to be less than the previous than the one after it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Right.
but the partition doesn't sort it, right? It just splits it in two,
So
right? It just
it's with the
it just creates a
partition, you would
partition, right? Not without the recursive calls, just the partition.
The partition
Subcall.
should sort.
it should sort it.
It
Yeah.
should sort it. Yeah. Yeah.
The
I'm talking
partition
about
should
underscore partition, where it just
Yeah.
returns the partition value.
it shouldn't sort it. It should make it so that everything to the right of the midpoint is greater than the midpoint.
Right. Right.
But yeah. But the thing is that
And then it
No, so what I was gonna say is like
I don't
you have
understand.
those. Sorry, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just saying, the thing that's really not clear to me is like, in the spec, are we expected that the partition value, try it again, do we expect that the partition index will contain the pivot value? Or are we just saying the pivot value is going to be to the right of that index? Like, are we trying to get the pivot value in the middle? Or is that, it was a
We're
little
trying to
unclear
get
in
the
the spec.
value right after the pivot. Right? Yeah.
Like,
Because
does
that's
it
the
matter where
first,
the pivot value is,
yes.
as long as it's in the right partition? Does it need to be right in the middle?
No, the pivot value should be at the point. So okay, so the pivot value, what's there at the pivot value after partition will be the element that is supposed to be there if it were sorted. So if it were sorted,
Got it.
then if you were to call partition, right?
Yeah.
Then
So
if
how
you
does
were
it
to,
get there?
so what happens is that, so you have those 2 pointers, right? For this one,
Right.
if the condition that what's here like after isn't greater than, so if what's coming after an element isn't greater than what's before that, then the condition when you're going across from the left side is broken. So you had to stop the left side pointer. Then on the right side, same thing, right? And then if the condition is broken, then you stop it. The point where you
Right.
stop it, you want to swap those 2 elements. Because if
Right,
you
of
swap
course.
them, then they'll be in the partition order. Like they won't be in sorted order, but they'll be in the partition order, right?
Right, partition order. Yeah, yeah.
And then you want to keep doing that until I and J cross each other.
Cross.
And then
Right, I saw that.
if they cross, you just return the right pointer, because the right pointer will be at the pivot +1. And like I think there's a proof for that, but like he just says in the spec, I think return the right pointer.
And
And like
yeah, because in the LOCIF module, they take a pivot value and they kind of stick it to the end, and then at the
Yeah.
last moment they swap. But the algorithm that he spec out doesn't do that. So how does the pivot value get? Like, imagine the pivot value is just the first value you see on both ends. So they swap, and then you just move on. Like, how does the pivot value ever get to its exact index? This is what I don't understand. Did that make sense? Like, how does, if you're pivoting
I
on
see what you mean.
10,
It's,
how does it end
it's
up
like-
in the kth index?
I think like, it's just a different way of partitioning. Like the way that LOCIF does it is to do like picking 3, right? And
Yeah,
Right,
that-
all that stuff.
that-
Right.
it's like less of a chance of kind of the situation that you mentioned where like suppose the index that you choose, it's like the largest value. So now you have these unequal partitions where it's just like a partition of 1, which is the largest value, and then all of the rest of the smaller values.
Right.
And so the choosing 3 values that LOCIF presents is supposed to help like kind of
More
safeguard
efficient.
against that abyss. But like
Right.
in this case, it doesn't. So like your question earlier, like, is it always going to be like the midpoint? It's not. Like it's going to have some inefficient like partitioning sometimes. But that's just what we're going for. And eventually it'll, we'll work on the other partition, and then it's going to keep sorting itself as it goes through it. But yeah,
I don't know what's
it's-
wrong with
it's-
me. I can't
I
think
think if
through it,
you-
and I just don't. I don't know what's wrong
If you
with me.
follow it, it'll, and like keep on stepping through, you'll eventually see, yeah, like what Shreya says, as long as your right pointer or runner is equal to or greater than, or wait, as long as your left runner is greater than or equal to your right runner, then you know that they've met or crossed, and then you just return. You return the right runner.
I just can't understand how, I mean, I'm not asking you guys to explain it really, but like, I'm just so confused how you get the kth value in the in the K partition spot. You know what I mean? Like if your partition, to make it like if your partition value is, I can't even understand it, right? So if your partition index is K, then how do you make sure that the Kth largest value ends up at K when you partition? Like, can the Kth largest value be anywhere on the right side of the partition, or does it need to be like at the partition point? Because the spec sounds like it's like at the partition point, so that if I give you two partitions, the one thing I know is that at that index is at the K index is the K largest value, and is that guarantee? Am I understanding the spec right, or does the spec not care? Does it just want it to be divided in half? Like I don't need the number that is being divided by to be in the spot. Am I making any sense? Not really.
Yeah, I get what you're asking. I am looking through my
Because if you look
code
at his
again.
spec, yeah, if you look at his spec, he writes out and he says, okay, this is the index, and I have 17 of this index, and so I know every value from 17 from this point 17 and below is going to be equal or greater than 17. So it looks like the partition value function returns that 17 at the right index for that particular number, not any of the others. Like, how does the algorithm possibly?
Yeah, I
ensure
kind
that
of
it's
get
in
what you
the-
mean. I think I remember having a lot of trouble with this too, because I implemented my own like algorithm and it was like working.
right?
But it would place K at a different location than what Anne wanted
Interesting.
his in.
Right.
And like
Okay, so that was important to get it in the right spot
yeah,
during the
like
partition.
he's looking
Yeah.
he's looking for it to be partitioned in a very particular way.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we just
And-
have to match that basically.
And LOSIF does it by like shooting it to the end and then replacing it there. Like LOSIF has a method for, but I think I'm, honestly, this one is so hard because I keep getting confused between the values of the indexes, which is super embarrassing, but like, it just keeps happening in my brain. It's like, take the middle index. I'm like, all right, I got the middle value. It's like, wait a minute. So I don't know, man. For some reason, all the other algorithms are really straightforward in my mind. And this one, I'm like, I don't know, not working. But anyway, I think I'm gonna just implement LOSIF maybe, and then get to know that really well, and then make the adaptations.
Yeah, that might work. That's what I did initially too, until I figured out like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just really not, this is not what the tests are looking for. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. But I think I remember this is, I might have just followed an algorithm on Wikipedia for this one. Or I can't remember, honestly. Oh, hold on, baby.
Susie, I should go to Wikipedia. Have you guys been messing around with the new chat AI from OpenAI?
Yes, my friends have been doing it.
Dude,
They've been solving
It's nuts,
chemistry and physics problems by
dude.
putting it in there.
It's like straight up ruining school. And I don't really mean that as an exaggeration. Like it's just trivializing homework in like a very unavoidable way, basically.
Step by
So,
step explanations. Like you could give a calculus problem, and it'll give you like the
Yeah.
exact rules they have to do. And like it's ruining these companies. Like, okay, no, I'm not gonna say ruining companies, but like they're these things like Symbol Lab, right? Where they're like, oh, pay to go in and
Right.
see the steps. But then with this, it just
Yeah.
gives it to you for free, which is crazy. But I've
do you ever
noticed
use
that. Go ahead.
do you ever use Wolfram Alpha?
Yeah, I did. But like it doesn't give you the steps. Like it says use chain rule or like use some random rule and you don't know how to
Yeah.
use it. It's not that useful.
Mhm. I mean, it just the interactivity of it. If you guys haven't done it, I'll send you a link. Although I think it might be down right now because they just blasted through. They got like 1 million users in, 5 days or something.
It's awesome.
I'll send it in the messages, but it's insane. I mean, this is the future, and I'd love to hear Anana actually talk about this because it's like, it's just it's so good that it just feels like a total step change for even for like engineering, like just the way you can ask it for code in like the most natural way. And the code has had some problems it's generated for me in Python, but it's pretty. My friend has been using it to write emails because English is her third language, and she's just like, and it's just like annoying to write formal emails. So she's just like, I want to send an email to my group. I'm the president. We're having a meeting this day. Make it informal, and it's like, hey guys, da 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 da. Insanely cool.
Okay, yeah, so I'm looking at my code again, and for partition, you, yeah, you just implement it, how, and kind of lays it out in the spec. And then for using it with find like kth least element, then at that point, assuming that your partition method is correct, then you trust that it's gonna the the like the k index that it returns to you, you trust that it's going to have the value that you're looking for in the second partition. So then those values that he tells you to use in the spec, where you start at the second partition +1 to the end, you know that that value is going to be in second start of partition +1 to the end, and then similarly, if it's not, then it's in the other from the low end to second start. So as long as you just follow what the partitioning system he gives in the specs, I think it should all work out.
So you didn't feel like there was anything missing from the spec, exactly. Like you didn't feel like it was like, no, we didn't mention this about the algorithm or anything like that.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, it's
I felt it was like more unintuitive in terms of like,
right.
because like when I was just like trying to code it up myself and then like thinking like, oh, where should it be, then I felt like, oh, I'll just do this and then I can find it there, and that was more intuitive to me. But just implementing it as like the specs say, it all works as you like step through and then just see like, okay, yeah, it just ends up there each time actually.
And then real granular question, when it talks about the guys that they get stuck, right? The two runners, it says it can't pass a number that's greater than the partition value. But when it reaches a partition value, it should be able to pass it, right? So why are we ever swapping partition values if the algorithm says only stop if you're on a value larger than the partition value? Makes sense. It's not this the way the spec's written, it's like it cannot cross a value that's larger than the partition, but that means it can cross the partition value, right? It's just like why I feel so dumb doing this class because I can't understand the basics of this algorithm. Like,
Oh, wait a minute. I feel like that part was kind of confusing to me, because then I remember trying to step through and trying to experiment with using the like greater than partition or greater than or equal to partition.
Exactly.
And then if I remember, if you do greater than or equal to or less than or equal to partition, then it kind of messes it up. Because
Interesting.
like it just kind of keeps on swapping it like infinitely at some point, I felt like, in some of the test cases I was running into. So yeah, I guess that part of the spec was a bit confusing, where it says you can keep on swapping things equal to the partition. Like I ended up not, like I ended up just using only greater than or exclusively less than, like not the equal tos.
So it would ignore the pivot value basically.
If it's greater than the pivot value.
So it would roll past the pivot value basically, either runner. Because in the spec, it's like, oh, if they're
No.
both stopped. No, it doesn't. So
shouldn't,
it stops
it
at pivot
shouldn't.
values.
Right, so if it's,
Interesting.
if you're using the greater than or equal to or the less than or equal to, right, partition value, then
And it would go past it.
right, but if you're not, then it would stop at it and then it would swap it. So
Got it.
then,
And that's what we want.
right, so then, wait, so then that's why that part of the spec still makes sense, because you can still swap partition values. Yeah,
But the spec says you can cross a value that's equal to the partition, right? It's like you cannot cross a value that's larger than the partition value. It's like, well, the partition value is small, is not larger than the partition value, so you can pass it. So I feel like the spec is wrong, right? Shouldn't the spec be like only pass things that are smaller than the partition value? Right? Like those, it seems like you should ignore values that are smaller than the partition value. Like, but he says, you know, you can't ignore values that are bigger than, right? So you'd be ignoring the partition value. Anyway, I don't know. I gotta experiment some more. But if you guys didn't have to parse this so closely, then obviously I'm not thinking super clearly about it. So I don't want to take up everyone's time. I don't know if anyone has other questions or anything they're stuck on. Also, maybe I'll post it to Reddit if I can't get it tonight.
I'm kind of confused on max flow because I honestly just don't get it. Can someone like explain to me like the basics of their algorithm and like what they're doing? Because like I looked at the textbook and I looked at LOCEF, but like it seems a bit complicated to me. Or like just like in general what the approach is, I guess.
you are initializing two graphs, a flow graph that has no flow to it initially, and then you're
Okay.
initializing a residual graph that's a copy of your original graph, as well as with reverse paths in there as well. And then basically you're going through the residual graph and you're trying to do like a max Dijkstra to find like the largest flow. So every time you do, then it kind of works the same way in which, like, you know, you have some sort of vector where you're keeping track. Well, that's your get max flow method, but you're kind of keeping track of like, at this point, have I seen anything with bigger flow? And then at the end, you return what has the biggest flow for that one process like node. So then from there, you go through that path that's returned at the end of all that, from source to destination, right? And with that path, you're trying to find your like your limiting pipe, you know, because you now have a path that is supposed to give you maximum flow, but when whatever is flowing from your source goes through that path, it's gonna be limited by the smallest pipe on that path, basically, like the edge with the smallest weight. So then you take that and you add that edge weight to your flow graph, and then you subtract it from your residual graph. And then you also add it into the reverse direction for your residual graph. And then you just keep on doing that.
I see.
Yeah.
So your
I
max
don't know.
extra,
That's kind of hard to explain. I think in like just in words and phrases. I feel like I just had to like stare at Los's module and like kind of keep rereading it for a while and like looking at his graphs and stuff, and that's what helped me the most.
okay, I see. For your max extra, did you just flip the priority queue settings and like change the condition in the for the change the condition for updating the weights, or were the only two changes you made, or were there anything else?
Let me check it. I think there were like a couple small changes, but it like that's a basic logic, right? You just you you don't specify like the any compare, so then like it'll just use the default compare of less than, so then that should give you like a max max heat, and then after that yeah, you're just trying to compare to your like your weight or distance vector to see like if you found anything greater than so far.
Right.
And then I think that was basically it. Let me see.
So you basically, for the max flow, you just followed LOSEF to the T, right?
Basically, yeah, like the pseudocode or algorithm that he gives. It's I just
All right.
put that in C++ form.
Okay, that's good to know, because I was kind of concerned about 'cause I think there's like a little bit of a different strategy mentioned in the spec. So
So Danny, does your code for max flow involve making 2 new graphs?
Let me see. Yeah, max flow. Yeah. I have a flow graph and a residual graph.
I guess I'll just try it out then myself.
Oh, and then with the reverse Dijkstra or getting the max capacity path, you do kind of have to like step through it a couple times to see some weird edge cases. In like your conditional of like when you decide to push a node into the priority queue. Because there are some cases where like you could possibly like miss something, or you could possibly like um because of the way the residual graph works, like it introduces um like forward and reverse paths. So then there's a chance of you going into like cycles if you're not careful about how you traverse it.
I see. Okay.
It's, it sounds like the last quest is pretty difficult.
Yeah, I think this is the toughest one for me.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably the
Interesting.
toughest quest so far.
Someone was talking shit about it. Someone was saying how easy it was. Who was it?
Justin,
Is that right?
I think you said 8
Someone
was
did.
harder than 9.
No way. I think eight was heap, right? Heap wasn't that hard. Heap was actually pretty easy.
No, but for quest 8, it's much more like theoretical, I feel. It's harder to understand.
Mm, okay. I don't know. I feel like for quest 8 though, like you just like once you understand the concepts and it's just following Losef and you're done.
Do you guys have any favorite like YouTube resources or anywhere you go for like overview?
Geeks for Geeks probably.
What is it?
Geeks for Geeks.
Oh, Geeks for Geeks. Yeah, I appreciate them. But sometimes they dive too deep and like they don't have like the greatest like overview.
That's true.
I use learn CPP a lot just for like basic C++ stuff that I'll forget.
Yeah.
Or one of the references, it's which one is it? C++.com. Yeah, not CPP reference. I'm not a big fan of that one, but I use C++.com a lot. But for like data structures and algorithms, I mostly just read LOSEF. And
Yeah.
if I can't find what I need in there, then usually Wikipedia.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I think everything is too detailed for me. Like I often feel like I just want to see at the highest level what this thing is doing, you know, and then like, all right, but I might just not be that smart. Might be the bigger problem here.
I think for Dijkstra's algorithm, as well as for not in 2C, but one of the past quests, like the Tower of Hanoi one. The
Yeah, it's a good one.
yeah, the Wikipedia articles for both of those are excellent, like in giving like
Really.
just a good overview as well as like a description of
Yeah.
what it's trying to do and not just like here's some pseudocode or like a template. And then it gives you like the pseudocode as well. So I recommend that for those two.
Okay. I think Tower of Hanoi is my favorite quest of them all.
That one was
the-
really
I like the
cool.
magic.
Yeah.
I like the magic.
Yeah. That was the first one where like from his like starting from his lowest, like the blue, and then up to green, where like I didn't have to reference anything, you know, it's just like, oh, I think I can get this algorithm. And I was like,
Mhm.
I have no
Yeah, yeah.
idea how to like, and then
Yeah.
when I found like the algorithm, it's like so simple. It's just a couple lines, but it's just like, oh, I wouldn't have been
awesome.
able to think about recursion in that way.
So
It's
good.
like, it's crazy. Yeah.
For quest 7, do we ever call like a non-merge, a non-quicksort algorithm? Like, do we ever call? Because in Losif, he talks about if it's like under 25, something like
Oh,
that,
then
they use a
just use
different
like
sort.
shell sort or something? No, it's gonna be
Okay.
all
That's all the way
quick
down.
sorted. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I should try to look up some code too and see different ways to implement it. Daniel, you taking any courses next semester?
I'll be taking one of the cloud courses, the security in AWS, as well as the advanced Linux administration one.
Mm,
Yeah, those two sounded pretty cool. Yeah, I think after this, I'm gonna try, I've already taken this course as well as discrete math, so I'm gonna try applying for grad school after this.
oh yeah.
And then the classes I'm taking next quarter are just gonna be like mostly for fun and knowledge. So we'll
Yep.
see how it goes.
Have you taken a good linear algebra course?
I took it a long time ago, back when
Okay.
I did my bachelor's.
Yep.
So I don't really plan to take it again, but I'll probably take a refresher just to make sure I still understand the concepts, because they were pretty killer from what I remember.
Dude, the CC system is like, from what I get, linear algebra is like traditionally taught after 2 years of calculus, which is like really way late for like, most linear algebra courses are like maybe one course of calculus, maybe, but it's like usually like pretty orthogonal.
Mhm.
But the CC, it's like linear algebra through the city college system in California is like really gnarly, I think.
Oh, is it
Like-
multiple courses?
No, but it's you can only, the prereqs are 2 years of calculus.
Oh, I
You're
see.
doing like single, multi, and so when you do linear algebra, it's like, it's like entirely calculus informed approach, which is like really unusual, right? Because mostly, I mean, honestly, most linear algebra is like just like real numbers or whatever.
Yeah.
But this is all like, I don't know, linear algebra functions basically. Like it's
Yeah. I guess it's just because it's
pretty
often
different.
paired with like differential equations. And then when you're talking about like the space of like a matrix, and like higher dimensions too, than like the whatchamacallit, the multivariate calculus kind of comes in handy, like at a theoretical level,
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, a lot of it is just like you're just taking a lot of eigen stuff
Mhm.
and just working with a lot of matrices from what I remember. So yeah, I think I agree with that. Like it should just be made available earlier before having to go through the whole calculus series.
Well, also it's just like as it's used, especially like in data science kind of applications, like you're like you're using it to hold numbers. It's like very much more than holding derivative functions or whatever, partial derivative functions or whatever it is. But yeah, I like linear algebra a lot. I'm gonna try to take a course. I think UCSD has like an extension course in algebra. It's pretty proper. So
Would you guys say that like discrete math is a hard course? Like a pretty hard course?
I think
It's a lot of concepts.
yeah, it's different from like say calculus and like algebra or trig.
what I would say is I would say that it's not. I say it's a hard course if you haven't seen the material before. I think it's like a course that you would like be in a much better position if you had like read a book, like just see it, because if you're just doing it like week by week and it's like like why are we talking about like this weird principle, and like if you just like you've seen it before. So I don't know, I would definitely, like, if you're going to take it, I think it's just something that like can feel like so foreign. The proof style, the questions they're asking, like, why are these like number theory questions even important? That's what I would say. So I would say it's not so hard, but I would like definitely get a book to read before you do it, so you can kind of understand the language and especially the proof style, inductive proofs, like just. So yeah, I think it's hard if you learn it all the first time. It's just like a lot of weird technical stuff thrown at you at the same time. Oh, like a math class where it's kind of like usually adding. It's like such a different language and like.
Is there a lot of graph theory in discrete math?
Yeah, like 1 or 2 weeks of it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just like a lot of different topics. You get like graph theory, you get number theory, you get like probability and statistics, and then yeah, like formal proofs and logic, like Adam was saying. So there's just like, yeah, like he was saying, if you haven't encountered that stuff before, and then you're like every week encountering like a new topic, then
That's
it
right.
feels really rushed. Yeah, especially for a quarters
that's right.
class.
The textbook that they assigned for us was actually pretty good. It's with EPS, like EPPS, I think is her name. And she wrote like a good, I'll throw it in your chat. But it's just actually like readable. You can just read it on your own. Like, it's not.
Did you take it at Foothill too, Adam, with Professor Witchrick?
I take it with a professor with like a Japanese looking name.
Okay.
He did like the online version that I took, and after every test, he'd send a message that was like, "Well, I hope you all do better next time." So he was like, "All right, man." Me too. I agree.
Yeah, Witchrick at Foothill, I recommend him. It's pretty good. His tests are pretty hard though, but he gives you 2 attempts. So that was pretty
What?
nice.
Oh
Yeah.
man, this is
My
Same
this is
first
problems or
not been
attempt
different
my
ones?
experience.
would be like mega low sometimes because he asked some like tricky questions.
Oh
then,
man,
like,
take it with
he
this
just-
person. Take it with
yeah.
this person.
He's
It's
good.
way
Alright.
better.
Okay.
All right. Should we call it and get back to questing? No one has any other questions?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty good. Probably make a post on Reddit if I need any help.
Yeah, sounds good. I think we'll all be on there watching and scanning. And it's probably more efficient to give answers on there too. Can lay out our thoughts in a more organized manner.
For sure. Did you guys watch the World Cup games today?
Yeah, I think I watched
Seriously?
the highlights. I think I watched the highlights.
Yeah, I was
I was-
watching both the games. It was crazy.
Which games did you watch then?
I watched the Morocco and Portugal one, and then I was just like popping in and
Yeah.
out of the France and England.
I heard that insane. I watched the France England game in like a super crowded bar. It was pretty fun. It's crazy.
Yeah, I had a
Losing their
question.
minds.
Did you guys get any trophies for 2-string on Quest 8?
Yeah, I think that does give trophies.
Okay, because I just tried it with the 2-string method and it didn't give me any, unfortunately.
Do you get no indication of string?
No, there's nothing. It says I got anything with 2-string.
I
Like,
think you have to get it right for the tell you anything, because if you get it wrong, it just doesn't display anything about string.
oh, bruh. Okay. That makes sense. I thought it was like if you return nothing, then it does that. But like if you don't return nothing, then it doesn't do that.
Oh, you're not getting like any error message?
No, not.
Oh,
That's
weird.
what I was getting also. Unless you like ace it somehow or get something close to the answer, it just doesn't appear or anything.
It's quite interesting.
All right, folks. Good to see ya. Good luck.
For sure. All
everyone.
right, guys.
Good
Good
luck.
time.
I'll
Hey,
see you
are
on
we
Reddit.
are we having a section tomorrow night, or is this a
This is it.
section?
I think this was
Okay.
our last party.
It's been a pleasure, guys. I'm gonna post lots of Reddit because I really would like to finish this quest, and I cannot do it. So
Yeah,
I'll see you guys
same.
there.
See you
Yeah,
guys.
post
Bye-bye.
as much as you need to. We'll
Yes,
reply.
I'll be asking you a lot of questions, Denny. About quest 9, Maxwell.
Yeah, Danny, dude, you're the oracle, man.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys. See ya.
Thank you,
night.
guys. Have a good one.
See you guys.